So as people join us, I think it's really just a time to say hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening at our annual general meeting of the Permaculture Association. People will be coming through over the next few minutes. Um, Tonight we've got a really nice mix of a presentation from the Ecological Citizens Network, who've been doing work with us for the last year, and we're really excited to see what they found out. We've got time for meeting each other, which we'll do in a moment. We'll get into some breakout groups. And we've got time for the annual general meeting. So electing some new members to the board, hearing about the work we've done over the last year and what we're planning to do over the next year, and time for your questions and suggestions and proposals. So yeah, we're aiming to do all of that in around an hour and a half. And yeah, we really appreciate you coming. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to be sharing screen and not sharing screen. We'll go in between different things. Um, but on the image there, you can see the Cerro Carmarthen Community Climate Coaches Workshop, which we held in June 2025. An absolutely fantastic activity. Steve Charter there has been leading that work, and I think that's been a real highlight of the year has been the work we've done on community climate coaches. So just pointing out some of the photos as we go. Um, the next thing we're going to do is going to get into some breakout groups and just meet other people. So Charlie, if you could get us into groups of three, and quite simply, we want to ask you to share your name, where you're calling from, and something about yourself and your work with permaculture or your support for permaculture or just what you're doing. So yeah, your name, where you're calling from, something about yourself and what you're doing with permaculture. And we've got about 10 minutes for this, 10, 12 minutes. So sort of 2 or 3 minutes each, but just make sure everyone has had an opportunity to speak. So Charlie, I think if you get the breakout groups started and
Everyone should have an invite.
you can join if you can. If you can't because you're eating your dinner, don't worry. But yeah, good opportunity just to meet other people. So we're now going to be joined by Rebecca Upton, who's a postdoc researcher at Wrexham University and also a lecturer at the Centre for Alternative Technology, and by Luke Gooding, who's at the School for the Stockholm Environment Institute at York University, who is a researcher in community energy. And they have been working with Tracy and Emily as four researchers for the last year looking at permaculture. They've been to the office in Leeds and they've looked at our archives. They've done interviews with, I think, 30 different people, and they've held three different workshops using the Three Horizons framework. And they've really done a deep dive into the permaculture network as an example of a group that is working on ecological citizenship, being ecological citizens. So after a year of work, we're really very much looking forward to seeing what they found out. So without any further ado, I shall pass on to Rebecca and Luke. And if you need me to give you a 5 minute warning, I will, but you've got about 40 minutes. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andy. Thanks for introductions as well. Um, we will be making this interactive at some point. So I think Luke and I are going to chat for about 20 minutes or so. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms and then have a bit of reflection time from everyone. It'll be great to hear from you all. I'm Rebecca. Yeah, Tracy and Emily couldn't make it tonight, but they've been part of the team as well. And yeah, we're really excited to talk to you about what we've been up to in the last year, I think it's been. Just to note, just for Luke, actually, when you do your half and we switch, I'll be clicking through for you. So you have to just say next slide, and I'll do that.
No problem.
If we look at the bottom bar on this slide, this project is about ecological citizenship, and it's with a few different universities. So the main university being Royal College of Art, but it's also with Wrexham University, and Luke is at University of York. And we're funded by the Engineering and Physical Science Research Council. The project's been going on for 4 years, and we're in towards the end of the third year now. And doing lots of different specifically funding. So it's a Research Plus project. I won't go into too much detail, but there's a website a website link at the end of these slides, so you can have a little look about other stuff we're doing. But we've been funding lots of different projects in the last couple of years, focusing on what ecological citizenship means for a sustainable digital transition in society. If it's something that interests you, have a look and get in touch if you want to learn a bit more, because there's lots of other stuff we've been up to. If I go to the next slide. So we've, in the last year, I think it's been working with Permaculture Association. It's been, a fantastic opportunity to use sort of the insights and understanding that we have around ecological citizenship and bring it to all of the knowledge and wisdom of the Permaculture Association, to see how we can learn from each other, and how we can support with the big transition that permaculture is in at the moment into sort of future steps, be that in your individual spaces in permaculture, because everyone's doing so many different fantastic things, as well as the organisation in itself. So we've done lots of different things, including interviews, and scoping out lots of data from the last 40 or so years, the Permaculture Association, as well as these featuring workshops. So anyone who came to the Wales Permaculture Festival, my colleague Tracy and we did do a presentation then, so some of you might have heard a little bit of this before, but today we're just going to talk about the featuring workshops, which is basically us presenting back the insights that you've given us as an organisation. So as we're going through this, I think we will have a bit of time to reflect in our little breakout rooms. But maybe if you can spend time thinking about what pops out for you, or what you're seeing on these slides, which is the results of the futuring research, how it connects to you, how it connects to sort of where you're at the moment, and maybe your transitions going forward with the organisation, maybe in your local area, or maybe for the work you do. And that'll be really great to hear from everyone at the end. Okay, so we did these featuring workshops, and we did 3. We did one in Leeds, one in Lampeter, and one was online. So maybe some of you joined us for that online session and can remember doing that, using Miro boards, and it was all very creative. And the idea of it is to look at 3 different horizons. I think it's on the next slide, actually. I'll go into detail a bit further. On 3 different horizons to explore and consider the future. So we'll be presenting key insights that we've come up with, that reflects on what you presented to us. And from this, we've developed next steps and potential experimentations that you can use to take the suggestions forward as an organisation. So just to reflect on where we're at the moment, where you at, where the Permaculture Association has been the last 40 years. It's a real moment in time. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling it in lots of different ways, with accelerating climate, social and economic disruption. COP30 is happening at the moment, which always brings up a feeling of that change and transition and potential. And the Permaculture Association, we're aware, has been doing amazing things for so long, but at the moment is quite stretched and has lots of incredible ideas. It's been amazing talking to so many people, and we hope this can help support that transition going forward. So in the last year, yeah, there's been a lot of focus on more moving beyond the short-term problem solving, and bringing the connection between the past with permaculture's amazing history of over 40 years, global organization as well. Um, and then we're using the tools that we've been exploring to critique and imagine with you. Um, and sort of looking at your strategy as well. So we're aligning these imaginations and processes with your strategy development. So this is one of the research things that we did. It's a futuring tool. So maybe some of you know of it, or you heard of it. A lot of organizations are starting to use it now, but you can see in the graph at the top, it's sort of showing a sort of visual image of what we're looking at. So there's three horizons there. We've got one, two, three, the red, the blue, and the green. And along the top axis, we've got the pattern, and then on the bottom is time. So horizon one is the current system. So you could call it business as usual, things going on as is, and often a lot of graphs are showing sort of that downward transition. The zone two, so the blue one in the middle, is about transition, and this is where we're talking about innovations and emergence and new things, and potentially involves tensions as well. And then horizon three is more imaginative and transformative. But the importance is bringing all of those together. So we're not saying that one is better than the other, but it's really important to be able to look back and look forward and see sort of where we're at, and how innovations can help with a transformative future. So here's some pictures. Maybe some of you were there. The top left, that was in Lampeter, the Futuring Workshop. We had big bits of paper with that same graph. And we had loads of post-it notes. It was, yeah, really fabulous day. Yeah, the top left and bottom left, both in Lampeter, and then in Leeds as well. So two very different spaces and groups, and it was yeah, really exciting and innovative day, and good to sort of close in and think about sort of transitioning and have fun with lots of colourful post-it notes. Okay, so just to reflect on the key headlines. So in Horizon 1, which is the current system, just to remind you all, which is business as usual. So the key themes that came up initially was about deep commitment and visible strain. So a lot of people, this is reflecting back what came out from the research. So that deep commitment, but also strain. So those in the Permaculture Association really were engaged and wanted to keep pushing with the transition and change, but felt that they were coming up against a lot of barriers. Which then linked to fragmentation. So we were often seeing there was lots of amazing things going on, but sometimes not that connection and relationship between, which sometimes led to burnout. And then there was also a focus on sort of the narrative not always being very clear and accessible. I know a lot of work has been done in this space, but it was a key thing that popped up in a lot of discussions that we had with you all. A lot of reliance on unpaid labour, which is great in itself. Like voluntary engagement is fantastic, but there is a lot of limits to it, particularly in relation to inclusion, and this is where things like burnout can happen. But within this, there's a really strong desire for belonging, community, place, be that within your smaller communities, people you see day to day, but also everyone you can see now online, and the real focus on cultural regeneration as well. So there's a lot of drive and commitment shown. So this theme focuses more on emotional and cultural tone. So again, we're talking about the current system. There's this huge grief for ecological and community loss, which is a real key driver for a lot of the Permaculture Association. That real strong longing to be of the land and with the land. Again, that came up as a really key theme cut across. a lot of the the different research spaces we were in. The narrative is not always clear and accessible. That links back to the last one as well. So that came up quite a lot, the importance of making that. For example, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this of personally, the discussion around the Permaculture Association's name in itself and whether that needs looking at potentially. There's also a need for relational infrastructure, ritual play, and celebration. So there was a lot of recognition. I think it's so much hard work, but so much recognition that it's really important to engage in communities and celebrate together. And there was a real focus on wellness being a collective experience and not an individual experience, which really pushes against the norms that we see today in society. Okay, so education, particular, that was a real key theme that came up across all of the different research spaces. So there was a reflection on schooling being very much standardized and disconnected from community realities. So a lot of stuff Permaculture Association is doing is really butting up against what formal school systems are engaging with at the moment. There was a drive for the importance of ethical learning and embodied practices and bringing that into the learning experience, as well as reflecting on lifelong learning and intentional unlearning as well. These were two really key things that came up. And when Permaculture Association is working against a bigger system that is very far from what you're doing, it's a real complex space to be in. Zone of transition. So now we've gone back. So that the red zone, zone 1, that's the business as usual. So things that are happening at the moment. And now we're talking about those innovations, the emergence, the change. So these are the ideas that all the different groups that we did this futuring research with came up with. But they're quite innovative, and sometimes they created a bit of tension. So there might have been agreement, or maybe there was some disagreements within the group. So this one is a focus on what is emerging. So there's a drive for more land centres and school gardens. So it's connecting to formal education systems. Real importance of engaging with place-based projects. There's a real drive for accreditation and informal pathways taking forward, and the sort of regional skill sharing. So even between very close spaces, there often isn't that sharing and development. But obviously, we recognise that there needs time and capacity to do so. But it's really exciting hearing that there's a drive for that. There was also discussion around trauma-informed organising, food sovereignty, youth-led governance. So lots of different innovative ways of shaking things up or looking at the organisation with different eyes to take things forward. And then the next one, again, we're on Horizon 2. So that innovations section is about characteristics. So the first one is small in scale, but big in spirit. And that was something we felt from everyone that we met. It's very much mycelial, so lots of nodes, but not always connected. So we really recognized that felt like a loss to a lot of people. And the need to differentiate I didn't go into details of this, but there's particular innovations that are more focused on transformative transitions and imagination, and those that can potentially go backwards as well. So it's sort of recognizing and the importance of that, the tension. And then finally, storytelling and knowledge stewarding are really essential. So there was recognition of the importance of bringing storytelling into permaculture design. I think I'll pass over to Luke now. Is that right?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Rebecca. So when we're talking now about Horizon 3, which is this final horizon, which is the future, we want to see this transformative future. We see that obviously at the start of our graph starts very low, right? Because at that point we don't know what we're aiming for yet. And then when we devise what we're aiming for and then put energy and resources behind that, we see that on our 3 horizons graph grow very nicely, and quite in a uniform manner, up and out. So what did we get? What did you say to us? What did the people who we talked to say to us? Well, we had a few things that come out. Firstly, I mean, this is, I suppose everyone on this call will agree, it would be wonderful and incredible for permaculture to be embedded in daily life. It's not marginal. It is part of mainstream education. It's part of normal conversations. It's part of what people do with their everyday schedule. And it reaches people's homes. It reaches people's work. It reaches people's places of leisure. That was the key kind of, that's the future we want. And so that was the key kind of master transformative future. But within that, what are we actually going to do? Well, actually, it's about maybe the governance of it is particularly participatory. More voices, as Rebecca says, youth voices perhaps, voices of more vulnerable groups, voices of just a wider range of people from different backgrounds in different places. Would that enable us to have that view of permaculture embedded in everyday life? Also, is that transformative future about systems thinking? Do we need to be looking at, economics as well as the environment? How can we make our positive impact on the economic system as well? Because obviously that needs a lot of help to be better. It doesn't need much help to be bad, but it needs a lot of help to be better. So how can we, with our energy, enter into that space? How could we also enter into a wider space, talking to organisations, local authorities, national government, for instance, or local businesses, local cooperatives? But also potentially this is about getting involved in other areas, not just food, but is it about housing? Is it about energy? Is it about what actually we touch every day and interact with every day? Thank you, Rebecca. Next slide, please. That felt very Chris Whitty saying next slide, please. Also, it was a lot came out about this idea of our own personal ways of being in this. And a reflection that hit me from quite a few people was this idea about gross domestic care and giving a service to life. And that idea that success isn't about fame, it's not about individual achievement, wealth, or status necessarily, although it obviously is for many people. But what if success was more about contributions that support life, contributions that support biodiversity, communities, mutual aid, education, caregiving? Are they not what success should be a measure of? And how can we stitch in different ways of measuring success that isn't just monetary? And I would argue there's a whole ream of potential things that we could stitch in as to actually how are we measuring success. And the participants came up with some wonderful ideas. I'll show a screenshot of some of the ideas that came up. I fear it may be too small font because there's that many on here, but hopefully we can get some. But also there was this idea about celebration. How can we look towards a culture that we're not overworked and we aren't just consuming all the time? We're reclaiming that time for things such as repair, mending objects, mending ecosystem, mending relationships. And what if we also had a culture of play, like creativity, well-being, learning, getting in contact with our inner child, have that thirst for learning? Would that not be part of how this transformative future could be? But also, as Rebecca mentioned as well, what about celebration? These community rituals. I mean, we all gathered together in June for the campfire, where we also held one of our online sessions. That kind of community coming together around a regular thing or a regular time or regular theme. What can that deliver? That collective joy, and is it showing the value of slow, meaningful, communal ways of living? And that was really something that came through as well. But also, we've got damage. Society and ecosystems are being damaged from various forces, potentially presently now more than ever. And how can we work towards healing those emotional and ecological wounds, as it were? And we can't do that alone. That is a collective action. So how can we get, some sort of feeling around that collective trauma, and then also have that civic kind of duty to tackle that? And it's not, obviously, we don't want it to be a private burden because it's too much for anybody, but how can we come together around that in a healthy way? Thank you, Rebecca. Next slide, please. But also in terms of the association itself, these are some of the things that came out too, that actually, is it the fact that it's not a central body that, you know, we all come to an AGM, which the AGM is wonderful, obviously, but is it also about the fact that it is the mucus of the soil, as it were? It's everything between the particles of the soil and that mycelial steward. Is it about having that richness of being amongst everything, but not necessarily a central node point, and how it can be very distributed in that way? And there was also this idea that the association has that role of, could it be uplifting and further uplifting kind of those storytellers and knowledge stewards, of which there's such a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the association, how to further lift, how to further kind of get those voices heard in wider audiences, and indeed audiences that maybe haven't heard it before, just because they're in such a different, a different realm. But also, we've had a wonderful time as a team getting involved in the amazing archive that the association's got, and that should not be diminished anyway, because it's an incredible resource. So actually, is the transformative future making sure that all that knowledge which is in the archives and that memory, that organizational memory, how can we make sure that that even more gets amplified? And I know there's been great work by archivists taking place already with those documents. How can we make sure that that is even more made accessible to as many people who will read it, essentially, not just people who are in the association, but more people too. And also this idea that because it's a lovely distributed network of amazing people, how can we make sure that all the learnings of all those people get shared really nicely, so everybody else has potential access to all of those? And I know lots of things, I mean, all these things are happening, but we're talking about amplifying and doing even more. How can we make that happen? Rebecca, next slide, please. So the font, I fear, is too small on this, but this was our campfire session, which was on June the 10th this year, where we had an amazing group of people, and I think at least some people on the call I recognised that were there on that evening. And these were some of the things that came out of our 3 horizons. So we had people plotting what they thought was in Horizon 1, 2, and 3. And all of those have kind of fed into what we've communicated back to you this evening. I, for one, have been really impressed by the amount of things that have came out, and lots of things that I didn't expect. People, you know, talking about their projects were showing how they had a business model where they could deliver something that maybe they hadn't thought of before, or people saying, actually, we're working with healthcare, and they hadn't thought of that before. So lots of these wonderful new ways of thinking. I'll just move on to the next slide, because the next slide might have a bit bigger font. Lovely, thank you. So when we plotted those ideas onto our Horizon 1, 2, and 3, that's what it came out as. So as you can see, a nice spread of things that people, you know, the issues in the red that are happening that we'd like to taper down. You know, all those things from obviously pollution or society pressures. We'd like to see those reduced. But also in Horizon 2, what about if we had some of those innovations where hope is a norm thing that we feel, and how that could come up? And also the fact that, you know, for instance, say libraries have more of a role in communities, and people have more access to libraries, and people feel more welcomed in libraries, how that would be a societal innovation that could go up. And then that would leave us with Horizon 3, where we get things like people feel like they have access to long-term education for free, or people feel like they have secure food and energy supply. That all of these things could lead into that Horizon 3. This is also, I will say, because I'm aware that the font is terribly small, this is also going in a separate report as well. So that will be on a PDF and made available to make sure that you can pick out anything that you want to pick out, or even relay back to us. That would be wonderful. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this sounds very strategic implications. Sounds a bit serious, doesn't it? But these are some of the things that I think we could be looking at in terms of what it all means. So we've had all this amazing information relayed to us, and we've hopefully kind of noted it all down in a really accurate way. But what does it actually mean? So from my perspective, I think it's leaning into that connective, transformative role, firstly, and move from potentially what some people might see as a service, which is in its like a membership organization, move from that to actually being that network steward. and create those conditions for even further learning and visibility. And I think some of the things that came out particularly surrounded these 4 points about these 4 leverage areas, of which obviously they're already happening in spades, but potentially could happen even more. Obviously, education, the networks, policy, and culture. And I feel like lots of what we were told surrounds those 4, and elements of those could all play a role in a possible future. So next slide, please. I'll go into a few of what that could look like in practice. So these are some of the proposed actions. This was kind of our innovations, our H2. What do we actually get told would be a nice thing that people had as action? So storytelling initiatives, all the great projects that you're hosting, you're carrying out, you're putting energy into, how to amplify those with better stories, those transformations of place, of people, of communities. Also, that element of digital access. I know we're not all blessed to have great Wi-Fi. We live in places which don't have great Wi-Fi, for instance, and we don't always have the opportunity to just hop on a call and talk to somebody on the other side of the country. So how can we improve those communication and digital access, maybe making things really low gigabytes, megabytes, to making sure that they're really low and you can, open them as you would on a Kindle or something that's really low data, so people with maybe minimal access, minimal internet can get access to them. But also, is there a role here for some thematic working groups? Because I know some people have different passions to other people. So particular people have passions about working with youth, particular passions about maybe they've got great relationships with local authorities or local government. Or what about also passions about people who work in the education system, work in schools, for instance? And how could those groups of people perhaps have even more emphasis on that and have that thematic working group? Also, this idea about looking after ourselves, and we've mentioned this well-being. How can we be more looking after our well-being? How can we focus on that more? And also just reaffirming that commitment to inclusion, that all people are welcome. And I know the organisation does that amazingly, but just front and centre that was some of the things that came out. Some of the longer term proposed actions which came out, which I thought were fascinating, is this idea that it could be foundational civic way of being. And that could be, actually mainstream education, could be how local government actually think of systems, how national government think of systems, to have it as that foundational civic ethic and value system. And also, what about stewarding a learning commons? I've mentioned about the archive. What about even having more of that and actually having that as a commons which is accessible for all and promoted to all, with no ownership over any of the information? It is just welcome. Please come and learn and read and understand what you'd like to understand from it. But also, people suggested it should be a cultural reference point, and this idea that it could be post-growth. And by that we mean, obviously, that we get to a point where potentially capitalism doesn't have such of a damaging role as it does at the moment in our ecosystems, and how it could be having a role in that potential long-term future. Next slide, please. And maybe some experiments, because all of this is wonderful to say, but until we put it in action, we don't know which things will work best and where and with whom and how. So there's also this idea that we had some people suggesting experiments. What things could we just have a go at, maybe pilot something and just see how it worked and see what people thought of it. So things like story circles or Pathfinder permaculture in schools, or bioregional hub pilots. And I know that some of these things have been done maybe in different guises or in different places, but maybe having a different think about those experiments. And obviously we talked about the Horizon 2 Innovation Lab. What about having that as an actual kind of like place where people come together and say, I've got an idea for an innovation, and it's quickly worked up into something and tried on a small scale. And if it fails, we learn something. If it doesn't fail, we learn something. And what about people who are actually kind of put in place with a hat on, which is, a justice and inclusion hat? How can that person safeguard to make sure that as many people from different backgrounds as possible having access to this great knowledge? And also, I know it's a difficult thing with limited funds, but that kind of idea about public messaging as well. Lots of the wonderful things that came out have amazing implications for people outside of the Permaculture Association, how to make sure we get that message out there and what that campaign could look like. Next slide, please. I think I've talked maybe a little bit longer, so is this the last slide, Rebecca? And then we can make sure we have some time for reflection. I think it might be. Lovely. Right, I'll just quickly go over these. Thank you. So I think all that being said, we have to be kind to ourselves. As you know, we've got to be kind to the earth, we've got to be kind to ourselves. So we need to make sure that all of these practices that we're saying about, caring for ecosystems, caring for society, we also make sure we need to internally care for who we are, both as an organization, as a people. And I think that definitely means, spaces of safety and spaces where people feel like they can have time for themselves. And I know the organisation is doing this already with members and staff, but also how to do that more and make a bigger deal out of it. That is good practice to share with other organisations to be like, no, actually, this is an amazing thing to do. And people aren't on this planet to work their whole lives; they're on this planet to be who they are and make sure that they care for each other. Next slide, please. So what I would say is this isn't a full stop. This is a comma. And actually, this is only kind of, I'll speak for myself. Last year, I've been involved with working with permaculture associations. It's been incredible. So it's not something that it's going to be a long-term collaboration if you'll have me. So it's also about this idea about balancing what we maintain, what we grow, what we let go. And that isn't for any but one person to obviously decide. It is for collective decisions about what particular emphasis should happen where and with whom and how. And I would also say that this idea that it's potentially in a space for stories and a space for people to have a go and an experiment and maybe suggesting, I fancy trying this particular innovation because this is my passion. I think that's a really interesting place to be. We have a place where we have, a climate crisis which is rapidly advancing. What if we also rapidly looked at how we could innovate in different areas that we are already doing so, but maybe expand or try different things? So yes, also an invitation, a very warm invitation to anybody who wants to take part in that next chapter and what that could look like. Thank you. Next slide. So we're going to do some breakout rooms again. Particularly, I'd love for people to kind of have a think about these 4 things. What myself and Rebecca have said, what kind of resonates with you? What do you think, yeah, bang on? Or what do you think, no, that's not right, that's off, what's missing? What could, be a priority for you? Like, actually, no, that thing that you said, that's definitely number 1 for me that I would start doing tomorrow. Or what could you actually say, no, we're doing that already, and you could actually just plug it in there, or you could do that. What's not an easy win, but something that already that could fit quite well. So those 4 things would be great if you could have a discussion around. I don't know if Charlie, you can send us off, or if anyone's got any questions before we go off. If not, click the button to join your room.
Sorry, we probably ended up cutting conversations short, so really sorry about that. But we just wanted to sort of reflect on where we're at, and we hope that you'll find some space going forward with yourself, maybe, or with other groups around you, or with those that you're connected to around the world, to reflect on these questions. If anyone wants to get in contact with us, I'll put the email address on the chat. We need to wrap up now, so thank you so much for letting us, spend time with the organisation and hear from a lot of people. It's been such a fantastic year. We've learned a lot, and we're so inspired by you all. And we hope that the synthesis of what we've gathered together can help take things forward to you for an exciting future. And maybe if anyone would like to share something, please pop it into the chat.
Yeah.
That'll be great. And yeah, we'll just pass to Luke to say farewells as well, and then we'll hand back to Anne.
Yeah, no, apologies. I probably spoke for too long. I was getting that into it. Thank you all for listening and for taking part in all the stages. And yeah, looking forward to future steps with yourselves. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. So, yep. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Luke. Great presentation. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 academic papers coming out, peer-reviewed papers, talking about the education work for governance. So we've got more coming. There'll be more opportunities for everyone to contribute and to respond to what we've been learning with Ecological Citizens Network. If you did have any thoughts in those breakout groups or any responses, then please do add them into the chat, and we will create other opportunities for you to feed in as we always do. So now we're going to move into the AGM, and I'll just share my screen. Okay, so we're moving into the AGM agenda, and we'll just do a quick review of last year's minutes. They're very brief. We're going to move into having a report from Sonia, who is our chair, and then David will give a treasurer's report, and then I'll do a staff report. Anne-Marie will guide us through the election of new trustees. We're going to say thank you to everyone, and we'll have some space for any other questions or comments, review minutes, and finish. And we're normally pretty efficient on this. We do a pretty fast job, mainly so that we can have space for questions. Let's move on to the next slide. So we're going to review minutes for last meeting, and last year we had 43 people attending, 167 proxy votes. Apologies from Ed Tyler, and basically Sally Ann and myself have gone through, and we had reports from the chair, we had reports from finance, presentations about the meeting, we had the elections of officers, we thanked everyone, marked the passing of Marina O'Connell, had some questions, and there was no other business. And we don't believe there's any matters arising that we needed to attend to at this meeting. So we
Andy,
Yeah.
sorry, but I don't have access to the minute stock.
That's fine. I'll change that imminently.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So if we go back to the minutes, yeah, we're confident that there's no matter arising. So we'll move on to the business, and Sally Ann will take minutes, and we'll just again have a brief set of minutes which we'll review at the end of the meeting. So over to Sonia.
Well, thank you first and foremost for everybody being here and bringing the values and ethics that we all share to this meeting. I don't take this for granted. I think this is very, very special. And at the association, we know that our members are an army of pioneers. And now the time is right for your patience and your hard work to flourish. Permaculture is big. It's a methodology of our future. The new earth is on the way. And we have people who stand ready with experience in practice, clarity in their mission, and the right values, rejecting the temptation of corruption, instead acting with transparency and integrity. You are the creators, the problem solvers, the vision holders, the designers. It's a privilege to be here with you this evening. And right now, I believe we are ready. As a community, we have the skills, the ethics, and the momentum to move permaculture further into everyday life and reach more and more people who may never have heard of this natural way of life before. And in 2026, our focus is on building a living national network. We want to connect local groups and support one another, be visible to the public, and remain open to anyone who wants to bring permaculture principles into daily life. Not everybody will become a teacher or a designer, but many will become supporters, advocates, and voices who can carry the work further. We have identified 7 areas of applications that we want to share beyond our inner circle to touch more people with permaculture and inspire them. And when the world seems darker, we shine brighter. And to make this real, we need you. Your presence, your local leadership, and your willingness to share projects and stories are the seeds of this national movement. We want to highlight your work, amplify your impact, and show the country what permaculture looks like when it's lived, not just taught. So please send us your story in about 100 words with photos, please, or video by the end of the year, so we can schedule social media posts, newsletters, and case studies. And for those of you who are ready to step up and take a local leadership role, coordinating permaculture in your region or bioregion, please send your interest and your application. As the program takes shape, we will need your help to guide, inspire, and connect to others. Let's get ready for the future together as a community who continues to carry the light into the country and beyond. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sonia. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Sonia. And thanks for all the work that you do as chair. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Great. Okay, so let's move to David and the treasurer's report.
Yes, follow that. That was that it. I agree with Sonia that we do want to spread the word. I mean, speaking for myself, I don't actually. I've been treasurer for 6 years now. I have a financial background, and I've never been much into gardening, but I've become a fantastic fan and hopefully advocate of permaculture. So we need to lift it. The picture with all the food it means that the finances are in good shape. We're not rich. We can't suddenly throw money at things, but we are balancing the books and achieving small surpluses or small deficits. So moving on, Andy, please. I don't think I can move that, can I, myself?
I've got it. That's fine.
The annual accounts are not ready yet. This is normal, I'm afraid, when we have the AGM at this sort of time. The accountants have our ledgers and they make sure that the accounts are correct from following the standards point of view. We're expecting a small loss this year. If I had to put a figure on it, and this is pure judgment from me, about 10,000. We made a surplus of 13,000 in the prior year. On to the next one. There's not many, it's about 5 or 6. Whether we make a small surplus or a small deficit is not significant because our reserves are at a satisfactory level. They are about half of our annual expenditure. So in a way, it's sort of, if things were to go pear-shaped, it's 6 months, got 6 months to sort it out. We were very close to the target last year. The target is in line with what Charity Commission likes to see. So we are financially resilient with those reserves, and that means we are a going concern, unless something really enormous suddenly struck us. We would, of course, like to make bigger surpluses, and that's part of something else. Moving on. Good financial controls, good quarterly accounts for the board. I just want to reassure all people attending this meeting that things are in good shape on the financial side. On not a very small number of staff. Monthly accounts, quarterly we go to the board, and we do a reforecast for the year as well. So yeah, carry on, please. Whoever's operating it. So that's the story really. In the current year, things are going quite well. We're back into surplus, but it's early days. If people want to post questions on the chat line, that's good. That's fine. As long as we capture those so that I can respond to them afterwards. That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. And this is the last year that David's doing as treasurer. He's passing on to a new treasurer who hopefully will be elected in a moment. And David's done an absolutely brilliant job. Is not rushing off. Is going to do a really good handover, and it's a really good opportunity to say an enormous thank you for being a very good treasurer. And we haven't given you any figures today, but the financial reports, as soon as they're ready, will be sent out to all the members. We lodge everything with a charity commission. It's all done on time, and we have a really extensive figures and a very extensive narrative report. So we really do welcome the scrutiny, and it's fair. And David does answer questions that are posed. So if there's anything you do want at any point, we really do genuinely want to be as transparent as possible as an organisation. So once you get the final figures, please do feel free to contact us if there's anything that isn't clear. So really now to go on to the staff report, I can say really what an amazing year again in terms of people's work. We've had, I think, a lot of good work. I'd say to give an all-round perspective, I think we've made some big moves forward in education. We've been working now, we've started to work with Glasgow and Strathclyde University, and supported by Lucy Alderslow, who's doing a brilliant job with us. We're hoping to get permaculture into primary schools. We've designed the Designing Sustainable Schools project, which has been launched this week. We've emailed 25,000 schools again. We've got a good number of schools taking that up. Small to start with, but growing, and we'll cluster those people together, hopefully bring them together around that work. We've got a great education working group, a great diploma working group, fantastic work being done by educators all across the country, in person, and then we have a shared platform online where we work together. And we've almost reached 200 diploma apprentices as well, which is a real achievement. So great work going on in education. We've had 4 community climate coaches workshops. So thanks to the Network for Social Change, we were able to work with 4 different groups and pilot this new approach to helping communities to come up with their own solutions around climate. And yeah, very good response. We learned a lot. The workshop that we did in workshop 4 was very different to the one we did in workshop 1. It really evolved and we learned. So we feel very ready to develop to do more of that now with something that really works. In terms of research, we've been working with the Ecological Citizens Network, as you've heard, but we've also been developing an evidence base for permaculture and agroecology with colleagues at the Land Workers Alliance, the Urban Agriculture Consortium, and Coventry University. And we've got this really great archive at the association office in Leeds. We've had some great students from Leeds University, and we've got something which actually is quite exciting now because we can really see just what's been happening over 40 years much more clearly, and it's getting quite exciting. A lot of stories there that we can share, and a lot of things we can follow up. We're really interested to see some of the projects that may have been going for like 30 or 40 years and going and doing some follow-up research. In terms of membership, we've got moved to this idea of working term time, so 3 terms a year. And we've developed a new digest, so bringing together members' news and articles. We've done 10 campfire events with people like Hugh Richards and Poppy Okocha, Martin Crawford, really well received. And we've been active and attending a lot of member-led events. So from the London Permaculture Festival, the Permaculture Gathering, East of England, we're very keen to attend events at the moment when we haven't been delivering our own kind of national event. So focusing more on attending and supporting regional stuff to happen. And then internationally, we've reached the milestone of working now with 200 different inquirers. It's not just about answering emails, it's about having ongoing relationships. Maria's done a brilliant job with that. Jihan's been working in Benin and Bolivia around conservation of fungal species. We've initiated a Living Systems Alliance with the Biomimicry Institute and Transition Network. And we're in a new agroecology learning partnership with 10 partners around the world. So astonishing amount of work. And that's just on top of all the standard things that we do, right? Like make the website work and all the communications. So some really great initiatives. We have had challenges. We've had a lot of technical challenges. We really have. And that's partly to do with the staff changes that we've had. So yeah, 3 members of staff moved on, all for good reasons, but it left us with a real bit of a gap in our technical skills. So we've addressed that now, but it has led to some challenges, and we appreciate you bearing with us. And I think one of the big challenges, which I know a lot of groups are facing, is that we've just had very limited success with our UK fundraising. At the moment, we've got much more funding in place for work internationally than we have in the UK. And we've got a bid out to the lottery at the moment. We've got a number of bids out, and we're hoping that will change soon, because we think we've got a lot of really good offer for the public. And that's one of the reasons we're so excited about the work with the Ecological Citizens Network, because now we can say in this peer-reviewed paper, Wrexham University, Stockholm Environment Institute, Royal College of Art, they say that our education is transformational. Not us saying it, it's them saying it. And that really helps to validate the work that we do. So yeah, we hope that will really help with our fundraising. But underneath this, what we're really committed to doing is making the membership work, the learning work, the diploma work, so that our foundation is solid, so we can continue to do the work we do, whether or not we get fundraising. So there we go. Okay, so moving into looking ahead for 2026, a few things to say here. We've moved to this idea of term time working, spring, summer, and autumn, and the themes that we've got are around water, soil, and energy. And each term we want to really focus on one area, so we get really good and we share our learning and share the stories of members. And spring term is all about water. So water in the home garden, water in the landscape, water in school gardens, water. We want your challenges, your ideas, your designs, your poems, your creativity. Let's really focus on water. And that's partly about making permaculture more accessible. So one of the things that Ecological Citizens Network are talking about is making the narrative stronger, the story stronger. So we're going to concentrate on things that people know: water, soil, energy, health, topics that people can relate to very quickly. We're going to update our strategy based on some of the work from Ecological Citizens and the regional strategy sessions that we're having. That means we want to do a lot of community building, especially around regional networks. We want to further develop the accreditation for permaculture education. We need to run a donations campaign, and we really would welcome your help in that. That could be running a local activity, a plant sale, coffee morning, whatever would work for you. And in April, we're going to run a donations campaign. We're going to look at our financial resilience, because it's sensible to be planning for business not as usual. Will the AI bubble burst? We don't know. Something's going to change, and we need to be prepared for it. And we want to really focus on our research and knowledge, sharing our knowledge. So re-establish some of those working groups. And then certainly regional events in 2026, and then planning for a national event in 2027. So lots of plans for the year ahead. And really, I won't go through all of these things, but more than ever, we want you to help us grow the community. We think that what's great about permaculture is that the Permaculture Association membership is not a passive thing. It's not like we just deliver to you and you receive it. It's something we make together. We really, really welcome everyone's input. So can you help us fundraise? Can you help distribute leaflets? Can you help with developing the local network? Sonia was saying there'll be roles available, but we'd like people to step up into sort of local and regional leadership positions. Get your students involved, join a working group, put some volunteering time in, give us your feedback, share your stories. So I think that's all I'm going to say, and I will pass on to Anne-Marie. I'm aware we're saying a lot. If you've got questions, please do write them down. We'll get to the questions. So if there's anything you want to ask, we'll get to that quite shortly. But there's my staff report. Over to Anne-Marie.
Right, so every good AGM has to have an election of the board of trustees, and yeah, we used to do this sitting together and putting our hands up, but the method now is via proxy voting, so you'll all have had an email and had the chance to vote in the election. So the present board is 7 members now, and we were looking to enlarge, and these 4 candidates came forward and all have been duly elected. So we welcome Jane Lum, Franco Colombo, Alessandro Lisi, and Mark Schipperly. I'm not sure who, I know Mark is here tonight. I don't
Jane
know
is
whether
too,
the
yeah.
others are.
Yeah, Jane's here. Alessandro sends his apologies. I think it's his 50th birthday, so he's out with his family.
Oh, I suppose we'll
So,
let him off.
Yeah.
Yes, so we had a good number of votes, 184, which is a quorum. And so it's a good result. And we very much welcome our new members of the board. And your first meeting is going to be on Monday. So we very much look forward to meeting you then.
Great.
And welcoming you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
So I think that's as much as I need to say, really.
Okay. So I think I've said this already. Annual report and impact report will be out soon. So that will come to you by email. And yeah, I think most importantly in this session is to extend our thanks to everyone. So to all of our brilliant volunteers and the teams, from the Welsh gathering crew to the education and diploma working groups. Many different people make the Permaculture Association work. To our staff for all their hard work, creativity and resilience. It has been a challenging year, and I think we've done a good job despite all of that. So thanks to everyone that works every day. Thanks to our web supporters and Circle. They've really helped us this year as well. They give us a lot of very significant in-kind contributions. Thanks to our board of trustees, who make a lot of really great contributions every month, sometimes every week. And yeah, really strategic engagement. So thanks to all of you. Thanks to our members and donors. You make this a vibrant community. Thanks to our funders. Thanks to Permaculture Magazine. We really appreciate working with you and all of our different partners. So yeah, huge gratitude to all of you. I think the accountants are always amazed at how much we get done with the amount of money we spend. So it's mainly because we do have lots of people helping. So
thanks to Andy too.
Yeah, thanks to me. I'm going to stop sharing, and I think it's probably easier now if we can just see each other. So go into just a gallery view, and time for questions. So the question could be to me or Sonia or David, or just if there's anyone particularly you want to ask a question to, please do. But we're just here now to be available. We don't have a set finish time, so let's see what there is.
Well, yeah, why not? Yeah, we had a discussion in our little group, and that was interesting. And yeah, kind of that's the question, kind of, yeah, what's was in there was great, and it showed a great, big, optimistic picture. However, if we're looking at the world around us, then we're not the only ones planning for the future, and there's people out there planning for very different futures. And I think we can't pretend that's not happening, because if we do, then that's the surest way that our future is not going to happen. So yeah, kind of like the question arising from there is like, how do we prepare for ecological and social collapse? To not to put too fine a point on it, and yeah, I don't know whether that spoils the celebratory mood a bit, but I think it's a serious question that we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to be the person answering. I'll happily jump in a little bit, and if anyone else wants to as well, that's fine too. I mean, briefly, I think that's very much why the regional strategy is so important, and in that regional strategy, not just thinking about permaculture, but how permaculture then organizes with other similar groups also working in that region. So I think it's about collaborating with allies, with people working in Landworks Alliance, with Transition Network, with many of those other networks that have got very similar goals. How can we be cultivating those relationships at that regional and local and regional level, so that we can create networks that can be more effective? So when we think about the regional strategy, it's absolutely not just about permaculture. It's permaculture as being a way of connecting in people doing green building, people working on appropriate technology, people on alternative education, people on woodlands and farms and gardens. And that's maybe one of our unique roles, is with this sort of holistic framework, there's that opportunity to connect lots of different groups that are doing maybe seemingly different things. So yeah, I think that the answer is more local. So how can the association support that sort of regional activity? Really, that's certainly something that we're looking at. But it's a huge question, and I don't claim to have the answer, Thomas. But I see hopefully Jane does have the answer. So let's pass over to Jane. There's a hand up there. So would Jane with the raised hand like to contribute?
You were muted, Jane, but now you're not.
Oh, now you have. You're unmuted. Now you're muted. There you are. Have a go.
Can we have a surname as well for the minutes? Thank you.
We can't hear you, Jane. So it might be that you need to put it into the chat. I'm afraid we can't. We can't see or hear you. Okay. Well, maybe we can get back into the chat and hear what is being said there. Anybody else want to come in with a comment, question, anything about what you've heard? Potential invitation to any of the new trustees to say hello if they want to. Go on, Jane.
I can briefly say hello. Hello, hello everyone. Jane, I'm really looking forward to working with you all. I'm in Huddersfield, up in the Pennines. It's very cold and icy today, it's hard to know what to say, but really looking forward to working with you all.
Great, lovely to have you on the team. Thank you. And Mark, would you like to come in?
Hi, yeah, I could say I was at the other end of the Pennines actually, but I've even moved further away than that. I'm now near the now infamous Rothbury, which is up for negotiation as to whether the Duke sells it to the Wildlife Trust and all this sort of stuff. I'm really excited. I've been involved in permaculture probably 12, 13 years. I'm fascinated quite a lot about the design systems and seeing how we can build thorough design systems, and permaculture has got an awful lot of the stuff. One of the most exciting things is it has ethics, which most design systems don't have, and these could be answers for local authorities and for business and stuff like that. And I think from today, I shared in our little group of three, I thought the most exciting thing for me was actually about creating a small space where people can practice innovation amongst ourselves before going out to a bigger thing. So that's reducing the risk, which often for entrepreneurs, the risk of failure is the thing that's a barrier. So I'm really hoping that for us, we can create a real little innovative nest type thing that gives people a chance to talk about ideas and practice them in a small way. So
Great.
looking forward to it all, really.
Lovely. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Well, the space is open. If anybody else has a comment or a question, then now is your chance. If not, we'll read the minutes and we'll say thank you to everyone and tuck ourselves into our warm, cozy beds, hopefully. So is anyone else wanting to come in?
I'd like to say welcome to our new board members, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you on Monday. I have a lot of questions for you, which I will save for Monday because I don't want to drag this out, which I'm known to. And Marie is laughing because she knows. So yeah, it's been really, really great to see you all, and I wish I had been in more working groups to meet more different people. So maybe I get the chance to do that some other time. My door is open if anybody wants to send me an email or anything. I'm approachable, and you can do that anytime. I loved the presentation. It was, I think, amazing, and many things that we as a board already thought of, and it's lovely to see it in a study. And we really have great plans for the next year, and I hope we can pull it off. And with the new board members, I hope they will help us make it happen.
Great.
Okay, have a lovely, lovely
Thanks,
evening.
Sonia. So let's
Thank
just
you.
quickly, Sally Ann, should we just quickly do the minutes?
Do you want me to read through them?
Just very briefly, I think just the
Okay.
key points.
Yes, I don't think I did justice to what Mark said, so apologies, Mark. There were 30 of us present. We've had some apologies. I won't read them out, but we have. So there were no matters arising from last year. We had reports from Sonia, who declared us to be ready for 2026, which is good to hear. And talked about the network and the regions and areas that have been identified for permaculture applications, and inviting everybody to send in their stories to help us do all of this work. Then we had a report from David, our treasurer, and he was saying that we're in good financial shape. The accounts, we've actually had draft accounts today, but we're still going through them. They will be available very soon. Reserves are at a satisfactory level. We're still financially resilient and continue to be a going concern. That we have good financial controls, that we have regular reporting, management accounts, and that we are back into surplus. And we have actually just had our management accounts show that we have just had 2 good months. That's my addition. And then Andy talked about 2025 and plans for next year. Staff reports. He talked about education, strides made in education, drew attention to the Designing Sustainable Schools project courses, and the work done by our educators and the education working group. In fact, all the working groups. And then he talked about climate work that's been taking place over the year, the work with the Ecological Citizens Network we've been hearing about, the amazing work that's been done on the archive at the office, and our new digest, which everybody will hopefully have seen. We've had 2 issues now, the campfire events, and our attendance at events across the country. And then he talked about some of our international projects, and about funding and the fact that we've had limited success so far, but a lot of work's gone into it. And he talked about our new term time working and our focus on water, soil and energy for the coming year. And the fact that we'll be attending more regional events in 2026 and working towards a national event in 2027. And he invited everyone to help us to grow our community and make all of this come to fruition. We then had the election, and Jane, Franco, Alessandro and Mark have been duly elected, and thanked all the working groups, the staff, the board of trustees, volunteers and funders. Lucy, I've missed an E off your name.
That's fine, don't worry.
Thank the staff team and the board of trustees. And then we had a series of questions from Thomas about how we were going to be dealing with. Did I get that right, Thomas? Was
Societal and economic, I think it was ecological and social
ecological? Right, I misheard.
Yeah, I think that will warrant being a matters arising next year.
Yes. Yes.
Given
if it hasn't happened by then yet.
If we haven't sorted it by
so Andy's response was about how working locally and regionally can make us more effective in helping people to come together and overcome some of these issues, but also said it was a huge question and we don't have all the answers, but yeah, so that will be something to talk about in the future, of course. And then Jane and Mark said they were excited to be looking forward to working with everybody, excited to be involved. And Sonia welcomed the new trustees. And unless we have any other business,
no,
I think
that's been raised. I think we can. Let's just ask if everyone's willing to accept them as a fair record of the meeting. Yeah, great. Okay, good. Minutes approved. AGM done. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you coming out. I think we've had a good combination of really excellent contributions from Ecological Citizens Network, a really great view. We're going to share presentations, we can share the papers, and then we've got the business of the AGM done as well. Thanks to all the trustees. Thanks to all the new trustees. Let's have a great year ahead. We really welcome all of your input. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.